everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the February 17th Neureal Community Live stream. My name is Kyler Anderson. I'm the Community Manager for Neureal. And I'm really excited to be here today with Will, our Chief Architect. Go ahead, Will, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Will.
Welcome, everybody. If you haven't done so already, if you're getting into the channel, go ahead and hit the like. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button because we'd really love to have you along for the ride. We've got some fun and exciting announcements to make for this week. Maybe Jen will hopefully be joining us near the end. That's always kind of a constant hopeful if, maybe. Let's see. Let's move on to some business. Do we have any business to take care of? In fact, Will, we were just talking about a piece of business that you wanted to take care of. Do you want to be the one to say that, or do you want me to do it?
Go ahead and do it. You can do it.
Cool. So we've been giving out some dates, some modified dates, and we just want to kind of make a clarification that we haven't been very clear on yet. So those are target dates. Those are the dates that we believe that we're going to have everything done. Those are when we would like to have everything done. It may not necessarily be when we have everything done. And so in the interest of clarity, we want to go ahead and let you know what the four major things that we are waiting on before we can officially say, yes, those are going to be the dates and this is when we're going to do it. First of all, Neureal needs to complete the process of having our legal entity set up. We've already got the Powered by Neureal is an entity, but we're still waiting on a few things. We may decide to go a different direction than we had been going. That's still to be decided, just depending on how long the process ends up taking. But we need to have a legal entity set up that can actually take the money legally. The next thing is that we need to have confidence in the contract. We need to write our contract to the point that we have confidence and have tested it enough that we can actually show it to other members of the community and say, hey, check it for errors, and then this is what we're going to use. We need to finalize our legal documentation. That's going to be the contract, or I guess, I don't know if contract's the right word, but I suppose it's going to be the contract that U.S. investors sign, and we have yet to decide or figure out legally whether we need to have other people from other countries sign that same document as well, or if it just needs to be the accredited U.S. people that sign it. But that's going to be a part of that discovery process. And then we also need to figure out exactly what we're going to do for our KYC AML. And this is actually something, if you, as a member of the community, have some knowledge or have some insight as to any of these points, especially the KYC AML part, we would absolutely love to hear from you because, I mean, Will, we were just talking about this the other day, right? That KYC AML information has actually made ICOs a larger target, other ICOs that are out in the marketplace, and the data itself has made them a big target to try and come after that accredited investor data.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit. So we've been talking with one of the big up and coming, or at least a possible provider of our KYC AML and our accredited system. So basically the idea is to sign up for Neureal, you'll go to a web page. To sign up for the sale, you go to a web page, put in your information, register your information as far as KYC, know your customer, kind of basically the same stuff you do, similar to what you do with Coinbase or an exchange to be able to raise your limits or whatever. So it's that kind of a thing. At the same time, you'd be putting in your Ethereum address and that you're going to be using to send the Ether so that we can whitelist you. And that's about it. So, and a pledge amount too. So, it's it's kind of, there's different levels of that, different things we might ask for, depending on where you're at. Like if you're in the U.S., we would ask for accreditation status, whereas if you're not, we wouldn't. Stuff like that. So the issue that Kyler's talking about is that because we're saving your information, because we're saving your personal data, right? That leaves us open, or at least the person holding the information, it leaves them open to data breaches and hacking and all sorts of things.
Man-in-the-middle attacks and
all sorts of stuff. So we are with this other company. We approached them and talked to them about that, and we mentioned that to them, and basically there's a lot of different levels of that process. So, like if we did our own KYC email, I mean, we literally grabbed the data, took the data, we held it on our own servers, and um, and then we after the sale, we got rid of it, right? Because we don't need it anymore. So that's a possibility that we could do. Okay, but there's another level where we could have another entity who's done this a lot, who has kind of a track record of holding this information, who's already been in this situation before, right, many times, and has a process in place to try to help to mitigate that. Okay, and other things. So that's another step. Then there's another step where there's even more step where like the companies that actually do the checking are at one step further. So you have like this third layer of data storage. So the data storage comes from a conglomerate of data storage. Okay, so what that means is, and what I'm trying to get at is, this is already happening. There are companies right now who hold this information. So if you go to Coinbase, let's say, right, and you put in this information in Coinbase, it's probably not Coinbase that's holding your data. It's these other companies. So if you go to Coinbase, it's these other like companies like and also if you think about it too, there's another thing that's important that we realized is that once we know whether you're going to be accepted or not, we don't need to know your information. Like all we need is a yes or no during the sale. Like
Yep.
that's it. So we can throw away your information. And in fact, in that third case where there's three layers, we never have to know your information. Like
We just
we
have to
literally
know. Yeah, we just have to know
we
whether they pinged you as a positive or negative.
yeah, and if we put our trust in these other companies, then I mean they're centralized, of course. That doesn't help out. Hopefully somebody comes up with a decentralized version of this, because that would be freaking awesome.
Yeah, it would.
Make this so much easier. Uh, so we have to pick these companies and trust them, end up trusting them. So I personally don't want to hold anybody's information. I'm like, I don't care. If you're okay, then that's if the government thinks you're okay,
Yeah, I was
like
just
those
gonna say it's not
guys.
even us.
I know. I mean, I would just take everybody. I don't really care. But I do understand. That that's just my personal opinion. But uh, I do understand that the law, those guys decide that that's the thing, and I'm going to comply and everything. So uh, so so anyway, so I don't want to hold it. So I'm going to let this other company. I'm never going to hold it. I'm going to let this other company grab it and get it. I mean, our name's going to be up there, but they're going to be the ones holding it if we go this way, right? If this all works out.
Right.
So the idea is that they hold your information, okay? And they've been doing it forever, like at least 6 years now, with this particular company. They've been doing it successfully, run billions of dollars through their crowd equity crowdfunding platform. Okay, and so they do KYC for that, and so they've got a proven track record over time, and so but they actually don't keep your data either, so they only keep it temporarily. So they would only keep it for the period of the sale, okay? Because they only need it. They only need to check it after you make the actual transact, or when you put the money into the sale, when the buyer puts their money into the contract, puts their ether into the contract. That's when it gets checked. So it only needs to stay with this company until that point, right? Because then they go out, they send it to these other companies, right, to say, hey, is this good? They get back a response. They send that to the contract directly, and then they don't even send it to us. They send it to the contract, and then they throw away the information. The only people that keep it are the company that they use.
Right. And presumably that all has to be done in case people follow up and see exactly who did due diligence. Because if we burn the information, then we can't prove that we checked it. But that's why they hold on to it in the first place, I would suppose.
Yeah, the other people hold on to it at the very end,
Makes
and
sense.
they just tie it to the ether address. So as long as we have that Ether address, we have that person, and they can check it back again. But
Makes
we have
total
to go to
sense.
the company to do that.
Oh, that's really exciting stuff. That's pretty cool though. Um,
Yeah. So we're going to test that out with this company, and the main thing is that we want to reduce our particular liability in that case because they have more of the track record. That way, people don't have to trust us as much. They can just be like, we trust these guys because they have a track record.
Especially
So
with all these terrible hacks that have been happening recently. That's just not something we want to even have to deal with.
yeah. So in that case, they actually send. We're going to write the contract so that they send us. I mean, they send the contract directly, the yes or no.
Okay.
So they
That's
literally call a function on the contract that only they can call. And I mean, I don't know if this
that's
is going to
pretty
work for
innovative. That's
sure.
pretty cool though.
Yeah, it's a different way of doing it. So we're trying to work that out with them. Um, so if it works, basically it'll be kind of unique in the industry, seeing as we won't have to keep our own database. We won't do anything like that. You know, the contract basically they have their own, just like we do. So the way we've set up the contract is that uh, at least our design at this point is that everybody gets to throw in their buy orders anytime during the whole thing.
Hmm.
Anytime, just throw your buy order in, boom, um, and uh, and then we every hour we have the option to put in a sell to put in a fulfillment transaction. Okay, only we as a recipient of the money can do that. Okay, so we initiate that, and we can only do it once per hour,
Okay.
and so that's the so we may actually end up skipping like the first 3 hours before we fulfill. That way, if there's this massive rush to the to put in their
Yeah, and
things, it won't
why don't we
fulfill for
talk
the
about
first
that?
three
Because that's
hours.
actually a question that a member of our community had this week. Do you remember, Will?
Yeah,
So specifically, we had a member ask us if we had any plans on how to mitigate the possibility of users trying to, I think what did he call it, a gas fight, essentially, um,
yeah.
where people are trying to bump up their payment fees, their TX fees, as high as they can in order to try and be the first person in on the cheap coin. And so I'm going to let Will go ahead and talk about what our kind of solutions, well, potential solutions are. But if you out there right now have a potential idea, let us know. We'd love to hear in the Telegram chat or here in the YouTube chat as well. Or if you have any questions concerning what we're doing, always enter them in the YouTube chat. We're here to go. So with that, take it away, Will.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody has any ideas on that, we'll be putting that out. I'll be doing some research too and see if anybody else has figured something out. But the only thing we currently have in there that can help mitigate that is our bucket size. And so there's only X amount of coin being sold in each bucket. And so it's a small enough, it's a pretty small number. And so even, I mean, if you're not like the top of the top, you're just not going to get that price. I mean, you're not going to get that. It's not like this massive shift. You know, it's a very, very small shift as you go up.
To be clear,
And
people,
so,
that's it's less than a percentage point of a penny. It's 0.00048 of a penny per bucket if they all sell out,
not a penny of ether.
or of an ether. Yeah,
Yeah, it's actually more than that, isn't it? It's at 4 zeros. I think it's
it is.
four.
It's 4 zeros. You're right. That all
Yeah.
can be found in our contract information, or not our token evolution chart right now. By the way, if you're interested.
Yeah, so I don't know how much cents that relates to USD. But
You'd have to have a lot of them to get a penny. Yeah.
so, so it's a pretty small amount that's raised each time. And so, like, the price is going to be, we're really doing it to, I mean, if you put a whole bunch of money in, then you're going to uh, uh,
Buy the
it can be
bucket out.
pushed off quite a bit, quite a ways, right? And so you're going to get like the worst price way down the line, 3 weeks later or whatever, or a month later.
Yeah, and I think that we've
Like
explained this before, but I just want to say it one more time just that it makes sense in the conversation that we're having. The way that those buckets work, it's like 1.333333 mil.
yeah, let's do
Um,
some quick calculations for people.
yeah, and so what happens is that when you, let's say that, somebody's already bought 1 mil and there's only the 0.3 mil left, okay? So let's say that you put in enough that you can buy like several million at that price. what would happen is that it would fill what is left in the bucket, and then it would kick your buy order to the end of the line.
Yeah. So it's around $93,000 ish for the first bucket. So almost 100,000 per bucket, and it'll raise. We can look at that. So it's 1,333,333, right? So times 0.07, going to be around 93,000. Okay. Then you add on the amount, which is how much is it? Those were in cents. That's right. They weren't in ether.
Yeah, I thought you'd done them in cents.
Yeah, I did in cents. So what was that? 0.00042?
I thought it was 4.8, but let me pull it up.
48? Yeah, 3 zeros, not 4. So it is 48. So that's so if it's 070, it's 0 0.7048. So that's times 1,333,333. That equals 93,000. It's almost exactly the same.
Nice.
So it's about
It's a couple pennies.
93,000.
So we get a couple pennies
Yeah.
more probably.
If we sell out, which is very highly unlikely, although possible, I suppose. If we sell out completely, the price is going to be 41 cents. So that would be 41, or actually, yeah, 41.6. So about 416 times 1,333.
And while he's working that out, let me specifically say that actually this answers another question that we actually get in our channel a lot, and I don't mind answering it, and I'll answer it probably a couple 100,000 more times. But people ask us what our hard cap is, and because the way that the sale's set up, there's not really a hard cap so much as there is a maximum amount we can earn if every single token is purchased out of every single bucket every time. However unlikely that may be.
Yeah, but it does carry over. We're probably going to do a carryover. Well, not probably. We are going to do a carryover. What that means is if the buckets don't sell all out in a particular hour, that amount will carry over and distribute evenly. It'll raise the 133 to the 333
Oh,
higher.
I see what you mean. So the buckets get slightly bigger over time.
Yeah. So like for instance, if we don't start it for 3 hours, that's going to be 3 of those buckets are going to be split out over time.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So we may skip the first 3 hours and not raise the price, right? So the price only raises if a bucket is completely sold out. Some people may want to like collude and be like, I'm gonna
I don't think they could do that
buy
though.
up to the last one.
With the
right?
buy order, with the buy order purchase as you go order, I don't think there's even any way to collude like that though, because somebody else is going to get in the train behind you and fill it.
Yeah, except for if they don't. Like if there are only 10 buyers of Neureal,
Oh, that's true.
and
Yeah.
they all collude, they could be like, we're only going to buy up to the very last token on the very last one. I mean,
And just leave it
of
there,
bucket,
so it's
right?
always 7
And
cents.
just leave it there,
Yep.
so the price doesn't go up, and that's fine. That's fine with us. So
although to be clear, one of the reasons that we're doing this, and somebody's asked us before what our soft cap is, and so the soft cap is 3.5 mil, and that's how much we need to make the project work. And anything
it's actually 2.5. I'm sorry.
2.5 mil. I apologize.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we just set it because we finally went through our performa, kind of finalized our numbers. We're coming out with some. By the way, that's another thing we can talk. Announcement today.
Oh,
we are
heck yeah.
coming out with some graphics for the allocation and how that's all going to work. So we finalized them. We're looking at 2.5 million as our soft cap. And so up to 4 million. So like 4 million is our kind of goal for that. So our target for the sale, our minimum target for the sale is 4 million. But our cap or our minimum or actual minimum is 2.5.
Yep, and then the very highest, if every single token sells out of every single one, which is again probably not going to happen and kind of ridiculous. But that would be it's like $208 million dollars.
Oh, wait, wait,
So
wait, wait, wait. We kept okay, I'm sorry, I'm confusing things here a little bit. Our soft cap is for our pre-sale cap.
yes, and
That's not the same
that's
as our minimum. Our minimum. So
right.
like, right. So we should be clear
We
about
should
all that.
clarify that. You're
Um,
right.
yeah.
So let's go ahead and
So
clarify that. The soft cap. Or you go ahead, Will. I'm getting
okay.
hit from three sides.
So the minimum is going to be the minimum amount we get during the pre-sale that is our like Kickstarter do or die basically, right? Um, so we send the money back if we don't get 2.5 million. Um, so so that's our 2.5 million. Then our soft cap is actually the cap at the pre-sale price, right? That's the 3.5 million, and we may
Okay.
change that to 4 million actually, because we want 4 million for our soft cap, I think.
Okay.
So during the pre-sale, we would have 4 million available as our soft cap, but then 2.5 million is our minimum,
Very cool.
and then yeah, so that's that. That's just for the pre-sale.
Yep, that's just for the pre-sale, which is for accredited investors. And just to remind everybody who's out there, that is a $100,000 minimum. Um, Now, I have had somebody ask me this, Will, and so it's probably a good thing to have you clarify here, and it's exactly on this topic. I have
Mm-hmm.
people who are all accredited investors, and they are kind of thinking about like 3 or 4 of them pooling together the $100,000 in order to meet that. Does that still meet the requirements, or is it $100,000 per individual?
Um, the per whitelisted address
Perfect.
per KYC AML accredited investor registration. So per person,
Gotcha. So
basically.
yeah, no bundling.
Well, they can, we can't stop them from doing whatever they do,
Yep.
like outside of that.
Nope, I understand that portion of it, but at least the way that it was proposed to me is that they wanted to invest as a group and have somebody manage that investment.
Ah, so whoever manages the investment, if they can sign on as a
KYC
accredited
AML.
investor and KYC AML, and they can pass that, then that's their prerogative to do
There
that.
you
Yeah,
go.
that should go
All
through.
right, so the answer is yes then.
Most likely. Uh,
Cool.
the answer is not for sure. Like it depends on their situation, but as long as they pass our KYC AML, then it doesn't, and their accredited check, then we don't. Then that will pass.
Gotcha.
But I can't tell you exactly.
They were non-US people too, so they were kind of scratching their heads at the accredited.
Oh,
What do you mean?
yeah. Well, exactly, and I mean we haven't been clear. You haven't been saying that exactly right either. The outside the U.S. may not need that accredited check.
Right.
So
Okay, I see what you're saying. You're right, I
even on the
haven't been saying
pre-sale,
that clear.
yeah, even on the pre-sale,
Okay. I thought that the pre-sale did require that check
the
regardless, but
reason
okay.
that the reason that you're confused about all this is because we don't know all the answers exactly yet, and so we don't want to tell people things that we've been saying this stuff, but we don't know for sure that that's where direction will go. But currently, we are we are the way we understand it right now is that we only need accredited investor check for the U.S. That's
Roger.
it. But we do need KYC AML for everyone else in the world
Roger Dodger.
for every part of the sale. So the only difference between the pre-sale and the TGE is the minimum amount. That's it.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and go over the performa stuff that you said you might want to announce?
No, because we'll be basically that's just we will be coming out with a graphic to describe it.
Oh, I see.
So
That's what you were meaning, is that we'll be coming out with a graphic to describe the token allocation in the KYC. Perfect.
yeah, yeah, easily digestible and everything. So hopefully people.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Hopefully people will get it. So, do you have any other business that you wanted to announce, or should we get into some good questions from the week?
I think we should get into questions.
Cool. So you know it's a question that we've answered before, Will, but I'd like to. I've said it till I'm blue in the face, so I'm going to let you say it again since you're the one who explained it to me in the first place. People are asking why we are locking the tokens for 2 years, and some people are just having a really hard time getting over that. So why don't you go ahead and give them the straight dope?
Um, yeah, we're locking the token because uh, for a number of reasons. Uh, if it was like, we're not an investment, we're just not. We're not looking for investment in the sense of returning, getting your money returned. We cannot promise that. Our product isn't made. We don't know um, if the token itself will have any value. It's not tied to our, to any kind of entity or anything like that. It's just, we're gonna do this. We're gonna try to do this thing. Um, so you actually answered it really well. I mean, I might be able to put my foot in my mouth here because
Gotcha.
I don't
Well,
always I don't
I'll
always say the words that other people understand.
gotcha. I'll get into it then. So
The right words.
just to clarify and say it one more time, we're not by law. The SEC is currently saying that any cryptocurrency ICO or anything even related to the ICO space is what they consider to be an unsecured, or oh, I'm trying to remember what the exact wording is, but it's unregistered security. Okay, and we're not trying to be in that space at all. That's not what we're trying to do. And we're not really interested in the type of people who are trying to go after these to say, hey, it's going to 5x, it's going to 10x, it's going to go crazy. What we're providing is really a piece of software. Or more accurately, we're providing the ability to interact with the piece of software that we're building. And the entire value of what that interaction is worth is entirely dependent on the ecosystem that surrounds that product that we build, how well the product that we build works, if it works. We believe that it's going to work. We have some really good indications that it's going to perform the way we describe, but that doesn't mean that that doesn't reflect what the future holds, right? I mean, if only we had Neureal, we could just predict all this and tell you all, but unfortunately, that's why we're building this. And we can show you all the different areas where it should add value to the ecosystem, but really, we're not looking for people who want to pump and dump. And that's another huge portion of it, is that that's not the type of investment mentality, not even investment, that's not the type of mentality that we're looking for in community members here. What we're really looking for is users. We want to build a user pool. And another really interesting thing that I don't think I can overstate this enough, but I find this very interesting that we're seeing the future as something that humans have tried to do forever. And it's something that humans have essentially said is worth so much more than gold and any of the other riches that it's been sought after forever. It's been worth more than life for some people. And so the idea that you're going to take this thing, which could potentially allow you to see the future, and then sell it because it bumped up a couple of cents and you want to pump and dump, that sounds ridiculously short-sighted to me. I don't know if that's where I would be doing. I guess that's all I'm going to go into that.
Yeah,
All right. So
yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, I think mainly, uh, there's some other things too that I've ran into, but I don't really know the right things to talk about. But it has to do with like the current, how things are set up and everything. One of the reasons we decided not to, one of the main reasons we decided not to sell in the U.S. To other than non-accredited investors is because we are U.S. citizens, and that's one of our main decisions for that. Because we're U.S. citizens, we look at the SEC. There's probably a lot of people out there there's a ton, I know. I mean, a lot of people that we talk to and are in our community are actually not in the U.S. So, um, there's the rest of the world out there, and everybody decides what they, gets. It has to deal with their locality, and they make those decisions on their own. For us, we gotta follow like what's going on here. So um, the way things are kind of going, I'm not saying it's the case, but we don't want to. We want to avoid as much of that as possible and have all our ducks in the row. so that we're doing the right thing. Um, and that's mainly the reason why we want to do that. It's not so much like I know there's a huge infrastructure out there, ecosystem, and some people look at that and they say, well, it doesn't really matter because um, you get you raise a bunch of money and then and then the price goes, you put it on the market
And then it
and you get your money.
moons.
Yeah, well, and no matter what happens with the token, right? The price of the token on the market, you still have your money, so you can develop the product.
Mm-hmm.
Like you kind of wash your hands of it, right? Well, there's there, that's really okay. The problem there mainly, and I think this is a lot of the confusion, is that if the product is finished, like if it has an MVP or if it has value already, right, and you're out there selling the product with that already has value, right?
How
It
much
makes
more
sense to put it on the
worthwhile is it?
market.
Yeah, how much more worthwhile is it to put a token on the market that actually has serious people using it, that has serious use cases that people can go to and literally say, oh, this is, even non-blockchain people can go to it and say, oh, this is what this does. I can very clearly see that you put data into the thing and you get answers out of it.
Yeah, and so you see that it's happening and all that. Uh, so we're in a particular situation where we have a prototype, but we don't have a working MVP. So we don't have any kind of like base level functionality that's useful. And so other than the potential, like it's just potential. So uh, so we're in that situation. So we're like, well, why should we? Like it makes sense to go on a market once there's that kind of value, but now it's speculative value.
Hmm.
Right now it is speculative value, and if we put it on the market, it's going to be uh, maybe not 100%, but it's very much mostly speculative value, right?
Well,
And that's
and
based
specifically
on
that a lot of what those people who get in early and speculate and end up pumping end up in the coin several times, that can actually damage a community over time, because people that would have been real users end up feeling like they're burned based on these just ridiculous price swings that happen in pump and dump communities. And so, a way to avoid pump and dumps in the first place is to wait until you have a serious, valuable product before you allow it to be traded. Right, Will?
right. Then when people come into, you still have that initial opening, and then the price people buy it up, and the price goes up, and then the price comes down because people are like, oh well, the speculative value, and it comes down. But the thing is, it doesn't go all the way down, right? So it's like nothing, right? Again, like lower than the buy amount, or something, Um, so that's what we're trying to avoid. So that everybody that is buying some now, pre-buying it, we're hoping that using strategies like that and doing some of the other things that we talked about, where we're actually putting that DAIC. Well, let's not call it that.
Yeah,
Um,
we're putting an accountability measure. We are writing accountability into our contract. I think that's the way we should word it, right?
yeah,
um,
that,
so I got a question, Will, and it's related to what we're talking about here. Can you explain some of the other projects that have come before us, some of the more successful projects that have come before us that have done similar things to what we're doing with not allowing them to be traded until it was ready to go,
but like Ethereum.
like Ethereum? It
Um,
was.
well, I do know that some of the other projects that people see that do put it on the market right away, they do have a functioning product, like storage, for instance, and you can see the value of their token. So storage, which we know here is local here in Utah, um, are, they have a fairly functional system, right? So when they did their token sell on the not that long ago, um, the value of it when it once it went on, it went into a hype, but then it went down and then went back up again, like right away. So it was like, it's that intrinsic value thing that we need, that they had because they had some system and they had all this investment. It was easy for people to see it, it was available up there. It was like more than we have a lot, like the value. Um, so anyway, that's a good thing. And then if you look at Ethereum, they were in the same boat as we were when they did their token sale, way back when. and they held on to it for. They didn't start their project for 2 years, and look at what they did. Look where they're at. I mean, they did great thing. They had a great network effect. They're a success story. We can't assure that, of course, that we're going to be that same success story. Um,
But we are at least
you know,
watching how other people succeeded and making sure that we take the right lessons from that.
that's right, and that's what our goals are. So we want to follow in the footsteps of people, and we don't. I personally, I've been around it so long, and I've seen so many other projects. And I can't name exactly those projects, but when I look out, I'm sure if I did enough research, I'll be able to come up with them. And start writing them down and trying to remember. But right now, it'd be hard for me to remember all of them. But my basic view across this whole, 6, 7 years or whatever that I've been doing, that I've been involved in this, the projects that did well and succeeded and continued on put a lot of faith and trust in the community. So there's anti to that, and there's examples of things like projects like Ripple,
Be
where
connect.
well, in Ripple, look at Ripple. I mean, it's one of the biggest, massive money thing. But then the relative value of the world and all the things going on that are all centralized to all the decentralized systems, including looking at Bitcoin, is so much greater. It's like Bitcoin is like a little, you know,
Drop in the
tittle in
bucket.
the puddle. It's a drop in the bucket of decentralized. So it's like, but every project that I've seen in the blockchain space that's been decentralized, right, has succeeded. Because the community gets in, they feel empowerment, they feel like they're empowered. They take it on themselves to be like, hey, we're going to do this thing. We like this thing, or we're going to help out. We're going to help promote. I watched it happen with Bitcoin itself. Back before there was anything around it. I watched it go from zero to what it is today. And it happened without any central control at all.
Or oversight or say so. It just, nobody waited for permission to innovate. They just did.
That's right. They just did. And there's a lot of power there, and I have more faith in that. I have more trust in that than I do in myself, truthfully.
I completely agree with you, Will. Ah, I love being a member of a community like this.
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk about another bit that I think you're gonna like. Can we talk? Can I talk just a little bit about video
Mhm.
contest? And then, do you want
Yeah.
to talk about potential airdrop, or do we want to leave the potential of airdrop alone until it becomes more real?
Um, yeah, let's. It's something we're planning. We're looking at. So we're looking at, as far as like, we call it airdrop or bounty or like affiliate or whatever. We don't really know, but basically the idea is that we possibly might come up with a bucket, take some of the token that we were allocating on release for the foundation, and getting it now, like a small amount, to do kind of a marketing thing with it, to do an airdrop, basically to give it away, or not give it away, but more like, people do stuff.
To allow you
Uh,
guys to earn it by doing good things for the network. By contributing
yeah,
value to the network, we will give you value in return.
yeah, and giving you some of that, the foundation token, which is the reason we were making that foundation token in the first place. Allocating it to the foundation so that they could do that. So we're thinking about reducing that amount, and then taking some of that that we reduce, and giving it out now, as opposed to waiting, until then. So some people, but we're trying to limit it, to offset and balance. It'll be a fairly relatively small amount to what like the alpha cell has been, or the early contributors.
Oh yeah.
Um, so it'll be a relatively small amount, just to kind of, uh, you know, grow, just get the word out faster, quicker, during the time we have.
Heck yeah.
We
And to
are kind
help,
of time limited.
we are very time limited, to be honest. I mean, of all the limitations that Neureal has, time is the biggest. I can only work 16 hours a day, Will. I've tried to make my
Uh,
body do more than that, and it doesn't work.
it's our actual enemy too. Is time.
Yep.
Time is Neureal's direct enemy because we're
Uh,
trying to predict the future, right? Predict time, time
yeah.
travel, in essence.
Hey, Ethan's here. Welcome, Ethan. Thanks for joining us. If you have questions, let us know. Ethan is a really excellent member of our community who's really contributed in a ton of ways, and we're really grateful to see him in our community chat. Will, there was something you were talking to me about privately that I wonder if might be a good thing to talk on the stream. We were talking about bottlenecks in the data science field.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, and that comes from my talking with Ben Taylor. Didn't we talk about that on the last stream
We
a
didn't
little bit?
necessarily we talked about Ben Taylor, but we just talked about him coming on as a data scientist, and we or as our data science advisor, and then we talked a bit about the potential of having miners work on his problems. But I think it stands restating about how much need there is for data science, and possibly, do you know why there are so few data scientists, and why that bottleneck exists in the first place? Because I've been asked that by basically everybody I've talked to about it so far.
Well, data science itself is really difficult. I mean, it's just it's math, statistics. It's like it's hard for people, and you have to be a certain type of person to really want to get into it. So, I mean, just think of all the nerdy tech people. Like I mean, it's not tech, but it's more it's the numbers and science and
Hard
accounting
math.
kind of thing. Yeah, so it takes a type of person. So there's that to begin with. Um, the real issue I think is that it's not about data scientists particularly. It's about data scientists that use AI. And so, as a data scientist, you're gonna deal with problems like, and you're gonna have relatively non AI solutions to those problems. I mean, this has been going on, for long time, and so there's a lot of solutions to problems out there that aren't AI. It's when you get to some barrier that you need AI, like then what happens is these data scientists don't make the step into AI. So the data scientists themselves, it's such a niche thing or whatever, and it's like this catch up thing, and like they're still dealing with all these other problems. So I don't know what to relate it to. What's a good analogy for that?
I
It's
would
like
say it almost, as we've been talking about it, it almost reminds me of, well, why were there not more nuclear physicists when they were trying to develop the Manhattan Project? And the answer was, well, the world didn't even realize that it needed nuclear physicists at that time. There was no incentivization structures in place to make more. There was just whoever was curious enough to get there.
that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good way to talk about it. Yeah, it's kind of like that. So we call them the rock star data scientists, right? And you can go in Kaggle and find them. Just go to Kaggle.com and check it out there, and you can look at the leaderboards and see who's winning the competitions, and you can find the rock star data scientists. The rock star data scientists, aka AI data scientists, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so So anyway, we talked to Ben about that, and he was saying stuff like, it can take so so a company hires a data scientist who's like, we need a model, we need to make a model, we need to put that into implementation, and we need to put that into action for our company so that it helps us out, right? He said that process can take up to a year, and I'm
No
like,
matter how much
wow,
funds you have to throw at it, it can take up to a year.
yeah.
Uh,
And so with the real, we're offering the potential that it's like you can start getting stuff going in a day, 2 days, in a week at the most or something.
oh, I love it.
And it's you don't need to hire the data scientists particularly. I mean, you are hiring data scientists, but it's a whole bunch of them
It's under the hood.
all over the world. Yeah.
And
So
that's literally what we're doing, right? Is we're taking this thing that right now you'd have to go construct your own car essentially, and we're making it easy. Just you get in, you turn the key, you press the pedal, you go where you want to go.
yeah.
All right, I'm loving this. So let's talk a little bit more, if we could, about I've heard. I, that's right, the video contest. So let me get into this right now. Since the first day I signed up, I've had this really exciting idea, and that is because every time I talk to somebody about Neureal, I always get a new idea about how to use it. Every single time somebody else has a new freaking idea about this amazing, utterly mind-blowing way to use Neureal that I hadn't even considered and I hadn't even heard Will talk about or Jen. Just last week, somebody was telling me that how cool would it be to use Neureal before your child signs up for college in order to help steer them towards what careers are actually going to be most needed and most valuable in the future. There's so many potential predictions and use cases that there's no way that we're going to be able to come up with them all. And in fact, we're not even going to be able to come up with the best ones. And that's part of the beauty of Neureal, is not only does it allow people to figure out what the best way to predict things are, the other side of this that it completely opens up is, right now, the number of people who can afford and have the ability to ask for these type of predictions, you could probably fit them in my office. I have kind of a big
Yeah, that's
office,
true.
but there's not a lot of them. And
Yeah.
just by nature of that, the questions they ask and the things that they even think to ask about, they're so limited. We have yet to figure out how far this is going to take off. And so in order to facilitate that, Will, Jen, and I have been discussing this really great idea. We're going to be actually setting forth some codified rules within the next week, I believe. That's on me, so I'm telling you that I'm going to have it done before the next live stream. And the way that this is going to work is that you're going to give us a 2-minute video that is going to take at least just a few seconds to explain what Neureal is, so that people who are watching can actually understand and have a base grasp of how it's going to do what you want it to do. But then you tell us what you want to do with it. What would you do with the power of Neureal right now? And explain how that would either change your life, or how that would change the world, or how that would better people. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to pick finalists among the videos that are submitted, and then the community, the token holders, are going to vote on which one of those dreams they want to endow, and then that will be the first project the Neureal Foundation works on after the release of the network. How cool is that?
Yeah.
So you want to see the future, come be a part of that. Come be a part with us, and we'll help. Let's
Yeah.
see if we have any questions from the live stream so far. Oh, here we go. I was recently watching an analysis of traffic flow relative to infrastructure expansion, i.e. a common problem. Being when roads lanes are added to. Traffic flow increases and bogs traffic down despite the expansion, because demand is simply that high. Even when infrastructure is expanded, latent market demand bogs up the roads that are expanded. I wonder if Neureal could aid in planning infrastructure builds out so that they rely less on expanding main arterial stuff and focus more on efficiency of routing. Yeah, Ethan, that's exactly what we're talking about. Oh man, Boring Company, eat your heart out. What do you have to say to that, Will?
Uh, I don't know. I mean that's the point of this whole thing, is that, like, I'm one of those people in the room. So, like, I'm limited, and we haven't even thought past the release. What are we going to work on? Like, that's where we get the largest. If we raise a bunch of money, and we were just like, well, we're going to grow the community basically, and get them to do the. I was just like, yeah, let's. I'm at that point. I've kind of personally uh, fulfilled my major need in the community. I mean, I've done my thing. I made the thing. I did the thing. I made the thing. And
Yep.
it's done. Or whatever. It's not done, but it's it's to
The
this point
major
where I can,
portion of
like,
it's
yeah,
stable.
yeah, I can be like, it's like Bitcoin. Like, there's a lot of development that happened from 2009 to, like, or whatever, 2008, 2009 to up to like 2011. But after that, it was like kind of crickets or whatever. I mean, it was 2012, and it was like kind of crickets. So you know, then it's up to the community, and I talked about that a little bit before earlier. So the answer to your question is I-
Yeah, maybe.
I'm like,
We think
yeah.
so.
So the only thing we're gonna do is I'm gonna look at each of these projects, and I'm gonna really really try, that are submitted. I'm gonna really try to find the ones that actually seem to me, looking at what the limitations of the platform, I see the limitations of the platform being. Not that they're going to be that, but I'm going to look at it from my point of view. Like, this is the limitations that I see the platform having. These are the things that can do best or whatever and work this way. And I will pick out the projects, and from
That
my
are
point of view,
realistic.
that seem the most realistic that we can actually implement. And then, and then Jen and Kyler, you guys can kind of pick out the ones that sound the coolest or whatever. That like have like the most interesting effect or the most thing that kind of fits
The most passion.
our
That's
personal.
really what we want, is the most passion.
Yeah, and we'll come up with a big list of them. If we get enough entries or whatever, and then the community can pick one out of those if they want. So and we're welcome to feedback too on that whole process too. So um,
Fantastic. Hey, Will, we've got 10 minutes left, and if do you have any business that we absolutely need to cover? Because if not, then I have a conversation that is going to take us at least 10 minutes, and I think it's one that
okay,
our community would love.
yeah, let's just do it because I mean I've pretty much covered everything that I've been thinking about and working on this week. So
Fantastic.
just as
Uh,
an update. So that's the main
So
stuff.
real quick, there is one other update I would like to maybe throw out there, and this is still just potential. We still have to make the final decision, but we've been invited to attend the AI Congress in Vegas. That's going to be next month from the 3rd to the 5th. We have tentatively accepted, I think. We have not yet paid for our booth yet, though, so we need to kind of make those final decisions to decide if we're going to go. But if you're in the Vegas area and you want to know more about Neureal and you'd like us to come, maybe say something in the chat so that we know we're going to have some love when we get down there, right?
That'd be awesome.
All right. So, oh, did I seriously just lose the question? Let me scroll back up and see if I can find it. Oh, there. That's what it was. Will, you and I had a very interesting conversation the other night about voting in these communities, because there was somebody who pointed out an article.
Oh yeah,
There was somebody who pointed out an article where they were like, DAICOs are stupid, and y'all are stupid, nobody cares.
yeah.
And we have a rebuttal. And Will has a really interesting point on this that the author really just missed the whole point.
Yeah, I don't think it should be called the DAICO number one, because the DAO is a confusing concept for a lot of people in the community, and these guys picked up on it, and it's got kind of a bad taste in people's mouths because of that particular, and the only reason is that particular project that was a security broker kind of project, a broker, right? It was basically taking the blockchain and being a broker for other they called themselves the DAO. So that was a marketing choice. It had nothing to do with technical, because even though they were a DAO, they're not the DAO. So they called themselves the DAO, didn't they?
Yeah, it was the DAO is,
Yeah,
and
and that is completely untrue because they were not the DAO. They were a DAO. So DAO stands for Decentralized Autonomous Organization, right? Decentralized Autonomous Organization. They weren't the one. Anything could be in a. There's lots of different kinds of decentralized autonomous organizations that have nothing to do with what they were doing. That could be totally different.
but they
We
tried to
talked about
usurp it with name, and
it.
unfortunately, it worked.
Yeah, so everybody kind of got this idea, or a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people got this idea that ADAO was what they did, and that's just not true. So which is I hate using the word now because of that, realizing that that's the case. It doesn't matter. I mean, we need to still use it. DAO, decentralized autonomous organization. You could the self-driving car that we talked about in that one episode, that goes and does its own thing. Is that? That's what it is.
Yep.
So that's not that's obviously not a security, or that's obviously not, has nothing to do with the
Not a
SEC,
contract
right?
that's going to fail and send everybody's ether into. Never mind.
Yeah, yeah. So so that was one thing about it that was interesting. The other thing though is that this kind of like the thing we're creating in the contract right now. So we're putting this stuff in, and it's the, what did you call it? Uh,
We're writing accountability protocols into the contract.
and the reason we're doing that is so that we understand that it's a pain in the butt for people to vote and all that kind of thing, right? But we want to make it available to people, whether or not they do it or not. Like if it's available, that's a word from our side, as the developers, as the recipients to this sale, and we're saying, we are willing to take that risk. Like, it's like we're saying, hey, community, we're willing up front to put that in the contract and say we are willing to take the risk, and put it in the contract so that we don't hold all the money, right? So that we get the money released to us over time as as things happen,
At said events.
and at set events, right? So that the community has the option, if we aren't, um, fulfilling our promises or whatever, they can, if there's a problem, they can get together and they can say, okay, we're going to vote, and these guys suck. We don't want to give them the rest of the money. Yeah,
And then
and
that, yeah,
and we're writing that into the contract. Just like the community would want that to be written into the contract, right? So we're offering that up, on our side of the table or whatever, and we're saying, hey, it's like a guarantee, like a company has a guarantee. If you are at all, for any reason, yeah, I grew up for this stuff. If for with any reason you're dissatisfied, you can return for a full refund. You
yeah.
know,
And
I mean, like stuff like it's
I want to
seems
point something out here real quick. This is actually very interestingly, this whole thing serves another purpose that I'm not even sure will necessarily programmed because of this, but I've studied startups quite a bit, and I've studied startup culture quite a bit. And one of the worst things you can ever do for a startup is to choke it with a bunch of money at a time when they're not sure exactly what they're going to do with it. Because what they end up doing is that all of the things that they would have innovated and jammed and tried to make resources work and come up with new creative ways to make things work because of limited resources, instead they just throw money at it. And they end up wasting money in all kinds of places that it doesn't matter. And unfortunately, that's what we're creating every time we create one of these these ICOs is a big cash pool that, there you go, kid. I mean, it's literally how many lottery winners does it actually do benefit for their life? Not a lot, and it's because of the same reason. That's just not how humans are set up to psychologically deal with stuff. And so, in fractioning it off and making sure that we're only paid small payments at certain times, we're making sure that we're only getting the funding we need when we need it.
yeah. And we put a percentage in there, so like if the sale's high, then we get a higher percentage, and we put the higher one up front, but we put the minimums that we thought we could at least get to a certain point, and those estimates may not be enough to, how would you say it, to fully realize the potential of what we could do in that with that at that time. Um, that may not be the case. In other words, here's X amount of money, right? And so we work with that. We have our things. Da, 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 da. We hit the end. We're like, oh crap! If we had 10,000 more, we could have done this other thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we had 2,000 more, we could have done this other thing, right? And that's okay. That's okay, because the reality is that um, is that there's always something.
Yeah. Not
Like
only
it keeps
that,
going, it never ends. So
not
there's
only
always 10,000 more. If we
Yep.
only had 10,000 more, if we only had 30,000 more, if we only had, it's never going to end. At
Yeah,
some
that
point, you
money's
that
there and available if we need it.
yeah, it's not like if the community is happy, we will get the next amount,
Mm-hmm.
and that's all that matters, is that we used. What's more important is that we used the money the best way, as well as we can. Like
Yeah, and as
we,
part of
it
that, by
doesn't
the way,
matter.
that's why the MVP that goes first is going first. By the way, because it helps
Right.
us to do the very most with those fund disbursements.
Yes, and the other thing is with the Powered by Neureal, and with this other plan we have of actually picking up people right away. That's huge. Like we have this potential of this backlog of people right away. Like they're already telling us, as soon as you can do this, we will pay you. Like literally, we have the checks here. You want to write?
Oh
You want to write
shoot,
your check right now?
that's what we should have
And we
talked
have a
about.
revenue stream. We have an immediate revenue stream happening. And so the revenue stream is the important part. It means success into the future, right?
Yes. No, and that's what we should have talked about, dang it. I forgot. I had that right here on my list, and I completely forgot that we
Yeah,
needed to talk about miners at Neureal. But don't worry, folks. That's why we're going to be here next week answering your
that's right.
questions and talking to you and just really enjoying your company. Folks, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for being here. Please make sure that you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. As well as please go join our Telegram. If you haven't joined our Telegram yet, that is where a ton of these really fantastic conversations happen. It's where I gather most of the questions that we answer during the live stream. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to have you hang out with us. So with that being said, we have now hit our time limit. Will, do you want to say goodnight?
Good night, everybody.
Good night.